Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're time traveling today, taking a snapshot of global tech and business on December 10th, 2024.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so, we got a bunch of articles and reports you sent over and really want to dig in, like beyond just what the headlines say. See if we can find some of the bigger trends, connections, and maybe even some ripple effects.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, it should be interesting. We've got a lot to cover, though. Tech wars, quantum computing revolutions, unexpected shakeups in finance. Where do we even begin?
Well, it really is amazing how interconnected everything is these days.
Right.
Like a decision in one part of the world can set off a chain reaction across the globe.
Totally. Okay, so let's dive in. One of the biggest stories that jumped out is the U.S.-China tech war that seems to be really heating up. China just launched an antitrust investigation into Nvidia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, a major U.S. chip maker. And it's over their acquisition of Mellanox Technologies, which they actually made back in 2020.
Huh.
Yeah, and Beijing initially approved the deal, but with some conditions. And it seems like there may be concern that those conditions haven't been met.
I see. So what's the issue? What are they worried about specifically?
It all centers around forced product bundling.
Okay, and for those of us who aren't, antitrust law experts, what exactly does that mean?
So basically it means that a company forces you to buy one product just so you can get another one.
Oh, okay.
Like imagine if you had to buy a certain brand of headphones just to be able to buy a specific phone.
Got it. Yeah, that wouldn't be very fair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the kind of practice that antitrust laws try to prevent.
Right. So China is essentially saying, hey, Nvidia, we think you might be playing a little dirty here.
Yeah, it seems that way. And this is all happening while the U.S. is tightening restrictions on Chinese chip makers. And then China is hitting back with their own bans on exports of these crucial chip-making minerals. It's getting pretty intense.
It's like a high-stakes game of chicken.
Yeah, for sure. Both countries know that controlling the chip supply chain is basically essential if you want to dominate technologies like AI.
Absolutely. AI is the future.
Exactly. And whoever controls the chips controls the AI.
Right. And it's not just about the technology itself. It's about the economic and geopolitical power that comes with it.
Totally. And then you see how Nvidia is trying to adapt to all this. They're now selling modified chips to China that comply with the U.S. restrictions. But it just shows you how complex this whole situation is.
It's fascinating to see how businesses are trying to navigate this geopolitical minefield.
Yeah, you got to wonder how this is all going to play out in the end. Like, who's going to come out on top in this tech race? And what does it mean for the rest of the world?
Big questions. No easy answers. I guess we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds.
Speaking of unexpected power plays, India just replaced their central bank governor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Shaktikanta Das is out, and they've brought in Sanjay Malhotra to take the reins.
Wow. So Das had been leading the bank since 2018, right? Focusing on stabilizing those government relations and, that financial recovery.
Exactly. He had his work cut out for him.
For sure. And now they bring in this new guy. It's a big deal,
Yeah.
Central bank governors, they're like the conductors of a country's economy.
Yeah, their decisions have a huge impact.
Huge. Everything from interest rates to inflation, even currency values. I mean, businesses and individuals, everyone's affected by what they decide.
Yeah, and the thing is, nobody really knows what Malhotra's views are on monetary policy.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of uncertainty right now, especially with India's economic growth slowing down and inflation going above the RBI's 6% target.
Right. It's a delicate time for a leadership change.
Definitely. Some analysts are even saying we might see rate cuts as early as February.
Wow, that would be a bold move from a new governor. It's definitely making the markets nervous.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. Let's shift gears for a second to something that really feels like a glimpse into the future, quantum computing.
Okay. Yeah, Google just announced this major breakthrough with their new Willow chip.
Huge news, right?
Absolutely. It's a game changer. But maybe we should take a step back for a second and explain what quantum computing actually is.
Good idea. Yeah, some people might not be familiar with all the technical details.
Right. So basically, imagine a computer that can solve problems millions of times faster than the computers we use today.
That's incredible.
It is. It's mind-blowing. And that's what quantum computing can potentially do. It uses the principles of quantum mechanics to perform calculations in ways that traditional computers just can't.
So we're talking about a whole different level of computing power.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Regular computers are like bicycles, and quantum computers are like supersonic jets.
Okay, I like that analogy. That really puts it in perspective.
And to make it even more impressive, Google's Willow chip has significantly improved error correction, which has always been one of the biggest hurdles in quantum computing.
Right. I read that some experts are even comparing this breakthrough to the first nuclear chain reaction.
Yeah, it's that significant. This is a major leap forward.
Google's aim is to hit 1 million qubits, which are basically the building blocks of quantum computers by the end of the decade.
That's their goal for creating practical quantum systems that can be used to solve real-world problems.
And the potential applications are just incredible.
Yeah.
We could see revolutions in medicine, materials, science, artificial
The
intelligence.
possibilities are limitless. It's like opening a door to a whole new world.
Totally. Okay. Let's swing back to China for a minute. They've just announced a moderately loose monetary policy for 2025.
Oh, wow. This is their first move towards easing in, what, 14 years?
Yep, that's right.
Wow. And this is particularly interesting because of everything that's going on right now in China.
Right.
They're facing weak economic growth, deflationary pressures,
Yeah.
and of course those ongoing trade tensions with the U.S., especially now with Trump back in office for a second term. It seems like they're trying to stimulate their economy.
So can you break it down for us? What exactly does monetary easing mean? Like, how does it actually work?
So basically, the central bank tries to make it easier for people and businesses to borrow and spend money. They do that by lowering interest rates and increasing the money supply. Think of it like turning on a faucet to get more water flowing through the system.
Okay, that makes sense.
They're also planning measures to try to stabilize their property and stock markets, but they haven't really released any specific details about those plans yet.
Interesting. It's a pretty bold move considering how reluctant China has been to embrace aggressive monetary easing in the past.
Yeah, I mean, one analyst I read called it unprecedented.
Wow, so this could have some pretty major impacts, not just on China's economy, but globally too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything's so interconnected these days.
And speaking of connections, there's another development with China that could have huge implications for the global landscape. They're restricting exports of drone components to the U.S. and Europe.
Oh, wow. And didn't I see something about even broader restrictions potentially coming in January?
Yeah, that's right.
This is big. This could directly impact Ukraine's ability to defend itself against Russia. Western countries rely heavily on Chinese drone technology.
Exactly. It's a real catch-22. The U.S. and its allies are accusing China of supporting Russia's drone programs, which China, of course, denies.
Right.
But at the same time, the U.S. is still providing military aid to Ukraine.
It's a very complex situation with a lot of moving parts.
Absolutely. And it really highlights that delicate balance between economic interests and geopolitical strategy.
It does. And you know what? This also brings up another interesting point. China currently dominates the global commercial drone market.
Oh, yeah. They control what, like 80% of it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
So for Western nations, finding alternative suppliers is going to be tough.
Definitely not easy.
Yeah.
It seems like we're entering a whole new era of drone warfare.
Yeah, and I think we're only just beginning to understand potential consequences.
For sure. And to make things even more complicated, China recently imposed sanctions on a bunch of U.S. defense companies, some of which are actually involved in supporting Ukraine.
Wow, so that just adds another layer of complexity to the whole situation.
It does. It really underscores those escalating tensions between the two superpowers.
Yeah, it's like they're playing a high-stakes game of chess with the whole world watching.
And every move has huge consequences.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift our focus to the Middle East now. The collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria has created a massive power vacuum.
Right, and Israel's been quick to take advantage of that.
Yeah, they've moved in to establish what they're calling a security area within Syrian territory.
Essentially, they're asserting control over a specific region, aiming to create a buffer zone that's free of heavy weapons and militant infrastructure. They're really taking advantage of the fact that there are no Russian air defenses there anymore to conduct strikes in the region.
And that's obviously causing friction. Egypt has condemned those actions, calling them a violation of the 1974 Armistice Agreement.
Yeah, it's a reminder that even long-standing agreements can be challenged when the geopolitical landscape shifts so dramatically, like what we've seen with the Syrian civil war.
Absolutely. The Syrian civil war has been a tinderbox for years with so many external actors and competing interests involved.
Exactly. And now with Assad out of the picture, the potential for even more instability in the region is a serious concern.
Okay. Let's switch gears back to the tech world for a moment. The TikTok saga continues, and it seems like it's just getting more complicated.
Oh, yeah. So just to recap, ByteDance, which is TikTok's parent company, is still facing pressure to divest TikTok in the U.S. over those national security concerns. All that stuff about data security.
Right, and now ByteDance and TikTok have filed an emergency motion to try to block a law that would force them to divest by January 19, 2025. or face a potential ban in the U.S.
Oh, wow. So they're really fighting back.
Yeah, this is a high-stakes legal battle. If they lose, TikTok could be shut down in the U.S.
And that would impact their massive user base. What is it, like 170 million users in America?
Something like that. It's hard to imagine TikTok just disappearing from the U.S. I mean, it would cause a huge uproar.
It would. But, you know, this case is important for another reason. It's setting a precedent for how the U.S. government approaches Chinese tech companies and how they operate within the U.S.
It really raises those fundamental questions about how to balance the benefits of global technology with those concerns about data privacy and national security.
It's a complex issue with no easy answers.
Definitely.
Yeah.
While we're talking about major deals and shifting landscapes, let's look at what's happening in the insurance and advertising industries. There's a wave of consolidation sweeping through both sectors.
Oh, yeah. Arthur J. Gallagher, which is a major player in the insurance world, is acquiring Assured Partners. And it's a massive deal.
Massive. What is it, like $13.45 billion?
That's right. And in the advertising world, we have Omnicom and Interpublic merging in a $13 billion deal.
Wow. So that'll create the world's largest advertising agency.
It will. It's fascinating to see these mega mergers happening across different industries.
What do you think are some of the potential implications of this kind of consolidation?
Well, I think it raises some important questions about the future of competition in these industries and what it will mean for consumer choice. You know, there may be benefits in terms of efficiency and even innovation, but there are definitely concerns about potential drawbacks, too.
Like, what kind of drawbacks are we talking about?
Well, for one, when you have fewer companies controlling larger portions of the market, it could lead to higher prices for consumers.
Oh, okay.
And also fewer choices for them, you know.
So it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
It is. And I'm sure regulators are going to be looking at these deals very closely to make sure they don't end up stifling competition or harming consumers down the line.
It's all about finding that right balance.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting about the Gallagher Assured Partners deal?
What's that?
There were no investment bankers involved in the negotiations.
Really? For a deal that big?
Yep. Pretty unusual, but it shows how companies are relying more on their own internal deal teams and expertise to handle these complex transactions.
So we're seeing this trend of consolidation across multiple industries. Why do you think that is? Why is it happening now?
Competition. The business world is more cutthroat than ever, and companies are always looking for an edge. Mergers and acquisitions allow them to increase their scale, boost efficiency, and grab a larger share of the market.
Right. It makes sense.
Right.
But like you said, it's crucial to consider the potential downsides as well.
Absolutely. Mergers can be a good thing, but they also carry inherent risks.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, from escalating tech wars and unexpected central bank shakeups to a quantum computing breakthrough and all these simmering geopolitical tensions. This snapshot of December 10th, 2024 paints a picture of a world in constant flux. What's the main takeaway you hope listeners will get from all of this?
I think the biggest takeaway is that the pace of change is accelerating, like rapidly. We're seeing breakthroughs in technology, shifts in geopolitical alliances, and this reconfiguration of economic power. It's a complex and interconnected world, and the decisions made on one side of the globe can have a ripple effect felt everywhere.
Absolutely. It's a lot to process, but it's also incredibly fascinating to watch unfold.
It is.
What surprised you the most out of all the events we discussed today?
Do you know that quantum computing breakthrough from Google? That one really blew my mind. I mean, it has the potential to revolutionize so many aspects of our lives. We're on the verge of a technological revolution, unlike anything we've ever seen.
It's exciting and a bit daunting at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, the future holds so much promise. But it also comes with its share of challenges,
Yeah.
you know? As we wrap up this deep dive into December 10th, 2024, I want to leave you with something to think about. What do you think these events will mean for our world in the long term?
That's the big question, isn't it? Will we move towards a more collaborative global landscape? Or will we become more fragmented? Will technology be a force that unites us, or will it divide us? These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as we navigate this uncharted territory.
The future isn't set in stone. It's shaped by the choices we make today. So stay informed, stay curious, and keep exploring. This has been The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating exploration of the world around us. Until then, keep diving.
Yeah, it really is. And, you know, this whole situation highlights that tricky balance between economic interests and geopolitical strategy.
For sure.
China controls something like 80% of the global commercial drone market.
Huge.
So finding alternative suppliers for Western nations is not going to be easy.
Yeah. It sounds like we're entering a whole new era of drone warfare.
We are. And I don't think we fully grasp the potential consequences yet.
I agree. And on top of all that, China also recently imposed sanctions on a bunch of U.S. defense companies.
Oh, right.
And some of those companies are actively involved in supporting Ukraine.
Wow. So that really just ramps up the tension between these two superpowers.
Yeah, it adds another layer of complexity to an already complicated situation.
Absolutely. Okay, so speaking of shifting power dynamics, let's move over to the Middle East. The collapse of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria has created this power vacuum.
Right.
And Israel has been quick to take advantage of the situation.
Yeah, they've moved in to establish what they're calling a security area within Syrian territory.
Exactly. Basically, they're saying, this is our zone now.
So what does that mean in practice?
Well, they're trying to create a buffer zone free of heavy weapons and any kind of militant infrastructure. And they're using this opportunity to conduct strikes in the region.
Because the Russian air defenses are gone.
Exactly, which obviously is causing some friction. Egypt has condemned Israel's actions and called it a violation of the 1974 Armistice Agreement.
Right. So even long-standing agreements can be thrown out the window when the geopolitical landscape shifts so drastically.
Yeah, I mean, the Syrian civil war has been a tinderbox for years. So many external actors, all these competing interests.
And with Assad gone, the potential for more instability in the region is a real concern.
For sure, it's a very volatile situation.
Let's head back to the tech world for a minute. The TikTok saga continues, and it's getting messier by the day.
Oh, yeah. So, just to recap, TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, is facing all this pressure to divest TikTok in the U.S.
Right, over national security concerns.
Yeah, all that stuff about data security. And now ByteDance and TikTok have filed an emergency motion.
To try to block that law.
Exactly. The one that would force them to divest by January 19th, 2025.
Or face a ban in the U.S.
Yep. This is a make-or-break moment for TikTok.
It is. They could be shut down in the U.S. if they lose this legal battle.
And with 170 million users in America, that would be a huge blow.
It would be hard to imagine TikTok just disappearing from the U.S. It would cause quite a stir.
For sure. But, this case is important for another reason.
Why is that?
It's setting a precedent for how the U.S. government is going to deal with Chinese tech companies operating in the U.S.
So it's about more than just TikTok.
It is. It raises those fundamental questions about how to balance the benefits of global technology with those concerns about data privacy and national security.
Really complex issues with no easy answers.
Definitely. While we're talking about major deals and all these shifting landscapes, let's take a look at what's happening in the insurance and advertising industries.
Okay.
There's this huge wave of consolidation happening in both sectors.
Yeah, Arthur J. Gallagher, a big name in insurance, is acquiring Assured Partners.
It's a massive deal.
Something like $13.45 billion.
Yeah, and then in advertising, you've got Omnicom and Interpublic merging in a $13 billion deal.
So that'll create the world's largest advertising agency.
It will. These mega mergers are happening across different industries.
It's interesting. What do you think are some of the implications of all this consolidation?
Well, it definitely raises questions about the future of competition in these industries
Okay.
and what it'll mean for consumers, On the one hand, mergers can sometimes lead to increased efficiency and innovation.
Okay.
But on the other hand, there are concerns about potential drawbacks.
What kind of drawbacks are we talking about?
Well, for one, when you have fewer companies controlling bigger chunks of the market, it could lead to higher prices.
That makes sense.
And fewer choices for consumers.
Right, so it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And I'm sure regulators are going to be watching these deals very closely.
To make sure they don't stifle competition.
Exactly. Or end up harming consumers down the line. It's all about striking that balance.
And there's something interesting about the Gallagher Assured Partners deal.
What's that?
No investment bankers were involved in the negotiations.
Oh, wow. Really? For a deal of that size?
Yeah, pretty unusual.
It is. It shows how companies are increasingly relying on their own internal deal teams and their own expertise to handle these complex transactions.
So we're seeing this trend of consolidation across multiple industries.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's happening? Why now?
Competition. The business world is incredibly competitive these days. Companies are always looking for an advantage. Mergers and acquisitions let them scale up, boost their efficiency, grab a bigger piece of the market.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's crucial to consider the potential downsides too.
Absolutely. Mergers can bring positive changes, but they also come with risks.
Okay, So we've covered a lot today, from escalating tech wars and unexpected central bank shakeups to a quantum computing breakthrough and all these simmering geopolitical tensions. It's clear that this snapshot of December 10th, 2024 shows us a world that's constantly changing. What's the most important takeaway you hope listeners will get from all of this?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is that the pace of change is just incredible. It's accelerating rapidly. We're seeing breakthroughs in technology, shifts in geopolitical alliances,
Yeah.
and this whole reconfiguration of economic power. It's a complex world. Everything's interconnected. And decisions made on one side of the globe can have ripple effects that are felt everywhere.
It's a lot to take in,
Hmm.
but it's also really fascinating to watch unfold. What surprised you the most out of everything we talked about today?
Honestly, that quantum computing breakthrough from Google, it's just mind-blowing. It has the potential to revolutionize so many things. We're on the cusp of a technological revolution, unlike anything we've ever seen before.
It's both exciting and a little bit daunting. Like the future holds so much promise, but it also comes with its own set of challenges. As we wrap up this deep dive into December 10th, 2024, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. What do you think all of these events mean for the world in the long run?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Will we move towards a more collaborative global landscape? Or will things become more fragmented? Will technology ultimately unite us or divide us? These are the questions we need to be asking ourselves as we move forward into this unknown territory.
The future isn't predetermined. It's shaped by the choices we make today. So stay informed, stay curious, and keep exploring. This has been The Deep Dive. We'll be back soon with another fascinating look at the world around us. Until then, keep diving.